Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars. Hello there. This is Dave, and you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars, from industry insiders to indie artists, from mega collectors to obsessive mythologists, to find out how Star Wars impacted their life. Here's the thing, there's a lot of ways to look at Star Wars, and it's all from a certain point of view, yours. And let's face it, we all love what we each personally love about Star Wars. And I believe that hearing someone talk passionately about what they love can open your own mind to new ways of thinking about what you love. Also, it's just fun to talk Star Wars. So I want to change the conversation from what is right or wrong about Star Wars to what does Star Wars mean to you? This is episode 11, part 1 of my conversation with Camila Quinones. To give it some context, this was recorded in January of this year. And Camila came to being a Star Wars fan through the prequel trilogy, and she'll tell you all about that shortly. But first, it's Thursday, May 11th, and there's still a lot of Star Wars to do. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. If you're liking the show, please give it a 5-star rating and review. Okay, now a bit of housekeeping first. I'm changing up the way I release these. I'm going to release part 1 and part 2 on the same day. Before, I was releasing them about a week apart. I just feel like I want to give you the full conversation, but having 1.5 or 2 hour podcast feels a little overwhelming. So you can binge them if you want or pace them out over the week. I just want to give you the full story at once and see how that goes. I've got a fan reaction. I was going to say some fan reactions. Got a fan reaction. Reacting to the J.C. Reifenberg Jar Jar Theory bonus episode on Instagram. At 2&2 Gaming said, "It's a very interesting take on the character. Keep up the good work." First of all, thanks so much, 2&2 Gaming, for letting me know that. I really appreciate it. I thought it was a good take on the character as well, and gave the audience some sympathy for Jar Jar to understand where he's coming from. And I also like that JC just straight up says that you may still not love the character, but you'll find him less annoying and understand him more. It's like being a Star Wars fan. You live with having to see another point of view all the time. So last week, Star Wars Visions Season 2 was released. So spoiler alerts, I'm going to talk about Star Wars Visions Season 2. Now, as I've said before, I'm not going to give a recap. I don't do recaps. Listening to me do a recap is like trying to get a signal on your cell phone on the moon. It's just roaming. Here's a question for you. Did you watch Season 2 in episode order, or do you hunt and peck and choose which ones to watch first? I jumped around a little bit, and overall really enjoyed the season. I love seeing different creatives take on Star Wars. And this had a range of stories from super light to super dark, and a range of animation from stop motion to 2D drawing. And I really love the variety of both animation and storytelling. Like I said, you have the super light, like I Am Your Mother from Aardman Animations, to the super dark, like The Pit, which was a partnership with Lucasfilm Limited. But my favorite episode was Spy Dancer. I really think it was a mix of animation style, story, and the fact that it had the MTV7. As soon as I saw it, my Kenner toy radar went off, and I was like, I know that thing! That's the Hoth monster truck vehicle that wasn't in the movies but was part of the toy line. And I always like it when they throw in an Easter egg like that. It's a completely ridiculous vehicle Kenner made in order to sell lower-priced toy vehicles that were never in the movies. Yet they find ways to work them into different projects today. And I love when storytellers use the established history, and I'm not really talking about canon here, but more the things that happened outside the story that fans know about, like toys, and incorporating them into the content. I think there's a great awareness and appreciation of the past, and it's a real payoff for the fans. I mean, that's how we got Grand Admiral Thrawn. A book character became a character for the show Rebels, and now he's the next live-action big bad. And it adds to the feeling that the world you're watching is continuously connected. But I'm soapboxing here. Let me get back to Spy Dancer. With that specific episode, it had a good balance of story, action, darkness, and hope. It was personal and kind of gritty, yet the action felt big and amazing. The way she danced through the air and eventually used her dancing as a weapon was mesmerizing. And honestly, I liked more of the episodes than I thought I would like. And I don't know why, I just didn't think I would like a lot of the episodes, but I got into them. They're very entertaining. And I look forward to season 3 and how they expand upon the animation styles. Did you like Vision season 2? What did you think of the Jar Jar theory? And do you like the idea of breaking up the shows into smaller bites or having one big long episode each week? Let me know on Twitter and Instagram at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. And now, part 1 of my conversation with Camila Quinones. Today, my guest is an assistant for some of the most interesting content being created today. She started her career in the mailroom of CAA and quickly worked her way up to assisting Jonathan Nolan on such projects as Reminiscence and Westworld. She is currently an assistant on a Netflix project. Let's say a warm, why hello there, to Camila Quinones. Did I get that right?
You nailed it. Perfect.
Awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, Camila, are you ready to tell everyone what does Star Wars mean to you?
I am ready, excited, and looking forward to it.
I start off with every guest with a bit called 5 with the Force. This is a standard set of 5 questions. It's just to give a quick baseline of where you are with your Star Wars fanhood.
Got it.
So the first one, which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
Depending on the day, it's either Attack of the Clones or The Force Awakens.
Oh, wow. Attack of the Clones. I think underrated. I honestly believe that.
Very much so.
Oh, this one involves a 1d6. Let me roll my die. And it is a 5. Who is your favorite alien?
Like species or character?
It can be species or character.
Wookiees. So any Wookiee ever is my absolute favorite. I love Wookiees with all my heart. I'm really tall. So I just relate to Wookiees being like very tall and formidable as you see them, but also they're just so kind and lovable. So Chewbacca, Baryaga from the High Republic, Gunji from Clone Wars. I love them all.
Oh, so that leads into what is your favorite Star Wars line to quote?
Oh my gosh, favorite Star Wars line to quote. Okay, so I'm gonna do a deep quote. It's not a quote, it's gonna be a whole speech, if that's okay.
Yes.
My favorite, I'm going to change this into my favorite speech in all Star Wars it comes from the Clone Wars, season 3, I want to say episode 11, and my favorite character, Padme Amidala, gives a speech where she's convincing the Senate to vote no on the funding of additional clones for the war. And she gives this really, really powerful speech talking about how the Republic is focusing on war, and by focusing on war, they're not focusing on the people. And so the people are hurting as a result of it. And it's my favorite thing. And sometimes I just will quote it to myself just as a reminder because I've memorized it. So definitely her Pursuit of Peace speech.
Oh, can you do it? Is it?
Okay. Yes. Let's see if I can do it.
I'd love to hear it. I'd love it.
So it starts and she is looking out to the crowd. Her little pod goes down to the center of the Senate floor and she starts and she goes, Tekla Mino. Tekla is one of my aides. Like so many of the people we tell ourselves we're here to serve, Tekla lives in a district that has no running water or electricity as a result of the war. Her children can now only bathe every 2 weeks, and they have no light in which to read or study at night. The Republic has always funded these basic services, but now there are those who would divert the money to the war with no thought of what the people need to survive. My people, your people, all of our people. This war is meant to save them from suffering, not increase it. I support our brave soldiers, whether they come from the clone factories or from any of the thousands of systems loyal to the Republic. But if we continue to impoverish our people, it is not on the battlefield where Dooku will defeat us, but in our own homes. Therefore, it is our duty and our responsibility to preserve the lives of those around us by defeating this bill. and then everyone applauds, and it's amazing. And Palpatine is like, "Oh no, I didn't account for Padme. She's foiling my plans," and she defeats the bill. So that's my favorite.
That's amazing. And it also really highlights some of the great, it highlights, even in Star Wars is also anti-war.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you did the whole speech. So I apologize for this next one, but can you do any Star Wars impressions or impersonations?
Oh, I can do a Wookiee. I can do a Wookiee.
Nice. I was hoping, as soon as you said Wookiee, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yes. Okay, here's my best. All right, here we go.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
That's my go-to.
The Wookiees are always fun to do.
They are, yes. I love the Wookiees.
And then, besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This could be a TV show, comic book, novel, game.
I really love the books. After in quarantine, and I spent I dedicated 2021 to reading as many Star Wars books as possible. Canon novels specifically, because I got into Star Wars in the canon side of it after the Disney acquisition. So
Okay.
I have read maybe one Legends novel, but of the new canon, I read like 60 plus, between 60 to 70 books.
Oh, wow.
And it was a great way to kind of dig into the world and learn more about these characters, and also to learn new characters who are background players in these movies that we're so familiar with. So yeah, it was a great opportunity to just hear different voices contributing to the world of Star Wars. So yeah, I really loving the books 100%.
Are there any series or individual titles that stand out for you? I mean, 60, that must be the full canon library at the moment, not counting things like the Legos and kindergarten books.
There are, I want to say there's like nearly 100. And only growing, because I haven't gotten to all of the newest releases, and I didn't read all of the novelizations of the movies. There's so many. I love the From a Certain Point of View anthologies.
Oh, yes.
For A New Hope and for Empire Strikes Back. I love hearing about the stories of the people in the background and the everyday people, and just the people who aren't the heroes on screen.
Yeah.
So getting to see how their stories tie into that. My favorite part about Star Wars are all of the female characters. So all of the books about the women that I read, the Padme Amidala trilogy stands out to me. Jyn Erso has a book called Rebel Rising, which I love. All of the novels about Leia. I look forward to hopefully more Rey novels, because I'm looking forward to seeing her story fill out. And even like the Iden Versio story, Battlefront 2, they did a novelization of, I think it's a prequel to the game.
It is.
And that's one of my favorites. I was not ready for how much I was going to love that book. So that one's really, really good too.
I agree. I happen to have read that one as well, and it was surprisingly just interesting, and it just brought so much to her character.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how did you first get into Star Wars? What was your first experience with Star Wars, and can you take me through that small journey?
Yeah, 100%. So the way I am about Star Wars today, I'll say, which is very knowledgeable about the world and slightly obsessive about it, is recent. Actually, I would say I've dug into it in the way I have now over quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time being at home, but going back, my first Star Wars movie that I remember watching was actually Attack of the Clones. And I don't remember when I watched the original trilogy first. No clue. My parents were not Star Wars kids. I did not get introduced to Star Wars through parents, which I know is like a big thing for a lot of kids of my generation, or people who are my generation. They all say like, oh, my parents introduced me, because they were introducing their kids. But no, so my mom took us to the movie theater one random day and was like, well, I guess we're going to watch this. And we saw Attack of the Clones. And I remember that there was this love story, which I'm a romantic, so I was immediately sold on the Anakin Padme love story. And I don't remember when I watched The Phantom Menace or Revenge of the Sith, but just like little things stand out to me. Anything with Padme, which makes sense because she's my favorite. The pod race stands out to me, just the ridiculousness of it and how fun those movies were, how big the world is. I love the world of the prequels. And so those are things that kind of cemented, I guess, deep in my brain when I was a kid, so that when I revisited all of the movies later and before Rise of Skywalker came out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna rewatch all of the movies to prepare for this last one. And then Rise of Skywalker came out, and then quarantine hit, and I was like, I'm really into this now. It's quarantine. What am I going to do? So I watched the Clone Wars, and then I watched Rebels, and I was on Wikipedia, which I'm sure you're on all the time, just going down all those deep dives. And then the first Star Wars book I read was Bloodline, which is about Princess Leia and the foundations of the First Order and the Resistance, and which I loved. And yeah, and from there it was like, okay, now I'm going to read all these books. And I just was so hungry and getting my hands on everything. So Attack of the Clones was the start back in the day, back in I think 2002 when it came out. But yeah, it's definitely exploded since then.
When you watched Attack of the Clones, obviously you didn't know who Anakin was going to turn into. Was watching it in order, essentially, of like episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did that change your point of view of Vader at all?
I mean, the thing is though, is I genuinely don't remember when I knew that Anakin was Vader, or if I don't have any specific recollection of watching Empire and going like, oh my gosh, he's Vader. Or actually the earliest memory I have that I think actually told me that Anakin is Vader and Anakin becomes Vader is in first grade. I was on the playground, and a friend of mine and I, and then two other boys would play Star Wars, but I knew nothing about Star Wars. But I just knew that I was the mother and Padme. So this Padme love was very cemented in my heart, very, very young. And then my friend was my daughter, Leia. And then I knew that this other kid was my husband, Anakin, who was going to turn evil. And then this other kid was my son. And so I think I figured it out then, but I didn't realize how big of a deal it was. So I don't have that like, oh, when I found out Anakin was Vader, it was depressing, or going back, So it's been cool to kind of find my entry point and find what's my equivalent to like latching on to how people felt about finding that Vader was Anakin and all of like that kind of stuff.
Padme is definitely one of your latching point. What is it about her character that you find so interesting?
Yeah, so many things. I mean, when you first meet her in The Phantom Menace, she's this 14-year-old who's queen of a planet. And as a young girl, that is incredibly inspiring and empowering to see. And she's got all of these fantastic outfits, but she's also like very smart, and she's capable with a blaster, and she's bossing around these older men who are trying to protect her. And she's like, no, we're going to do this, which is just awesome to see. But I love her fearlessness and her intense compassion and her radical hope is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
I mean, Star Wars is all about hope. We see that throughout the entire saga and just in all of these stories. But like, I think Padme is one of the characters that truly embodies an unwavering hope in people and in the Republic, and in fighting for what's right, and in doing what's good, and always trying to do what's good. And I think that she's just, I mean, also the fact that she's like a young woman, and as I mentioned earlier, quoting that scene in the Clone Wars at episode Peace, where she gives her speech and Palpatine is like, he says, I've watched this episode so many times. He says, isn't it remarkable that the words of a single senator can sway the thoughts of millions? And the fact that this one young woman had the power to thwart Darth Sidious's plans, where he has to keep changing his course because of Padme, is so incredible. And I love it so much. And it's just really important to me that more people understand how powerful she is and don't just sum her up to being someone who died of sadness.
I think that's a good point. It's also interesting that basically she is defeating Sidious with her words, and her words only. And as a writer, I'm sure that echoes with you quite a bit.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. And I love that you said that, because Padme being someone from Naboo, they talk about this a lot in the novelization, the Padme Amidala trilogy, which gets into her backstory into becoming queen and being a senator, but then also her relationship with her handmaidens. So it's a really great trilogy that shows some beautiful female friendship, which I think is very rare. We don't often see in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the whole, it dives into that Naboo is a culture of art, and the people of Naboo are artists. And some are painters, some are performers, some are they work with clothing and etc. But Padme is an artist with her words, and so it's the ability, her ability to use words to truly change the course of people's lives and make lives better is incredibly inspiring to me as a writer, like you said.
That's great. I like, even in this conversation right now, I like how the differences that people can find in Star Wars and then share that. You know, you have a very, I'm going to put this in a very broad terms, but you have a very prequel centric reflection of the movie, where I had a very original trilogy reflection of the movie. And I was going to say something really brilliant and wise, and I lost it in trying to say prequel centric reflection.
It'll come back. It'll come back. I know it.
It will come back. Exactly. All I have to do is keep talking and words will come out. But my point being is that so many people can see so many different things in Star Wars, and that's what I find interesting is how does your reflection of Star Wars reflect back on you? And now I'm just rambling, so I'll stop right there. Cut this out later. I don't know. Maybe.
Cinema Craptaculous is your podcast destination for all things movies, good and bad, streaming series, good and bad, and pop culture, good, bad, and the ugly. You get a totally different show every week, such as People Also Watched with Adam, Dave, and Tara. They're three industry insiders who always find the hilarity in the big budget feature and the lesser known feature you may have missed. There is, of course, the Expanded Universe. This is your place to geek out. John, Doc, and S'more are your geek experts to talk about what's going on in the world of streaming series, movies, superheroes, pretty much any showbiz geek topic, they're going to talk about it. And of course, there's the show that started it all, Cinema Craptaculous, with Stephanie, John, and Dave. You don't even need to have seen the movies these guys talk about to have a good time. So what are you waiting for? Go and subscribe to Cinema Craptaculous wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
When you made the decision to watch the Clone Wars, I'm assuming you had watched all the prequel trilogy and probably the original trilogy. As a fan of the prequel trilogy, did watching the Clone Wars make you a larger fan? What was the Clone Wars like coming off of fandom of the prequel trilogy?
Absolutely. I mean, it adds to the world in such a powerful way, because you look at the prequel trilogy and we're starting when Anakin's 9 and end when he's 21, I think. Yes. No, 23.
Yeah. I think it's 23.
I'm going by 23 because I know that Padme was 27 when she died. Again, all roads lead back to Padme. Yeah. So he was, so we end when he's 23. And so that's such a massive gap of time versus when you compare the original trilogy, I believe is like 4 or 5 years. And then the sequel trilogy is even shorter than that. I want to say
2 days,
3 years or something. Yeah. So you have so much time over the course of 3 movies, and especially jumping from 1 to 2, it's an entire 10-year gap. And then there's this entire war that happens between Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith. So it was great to, again, keep diving into that world building, but then I think also to have a better understanding of the characters, and then also a better understanding of why the Jedi Order fell. Yeah. Which I think is incredibly important and powerful to see, because I think it then also can speak to things that you see happening in the sequel trilogy, specifically with Luke's character, which I know is a very divisive topic among the community of people like Luke in The Last Jedi and don't. We don't have to talk about that right now. But yeah, being able to see the way that politics really hurts the Jedi. And you see it in the fact that there's the scene when when Satine reaches out to Obi-Wan, is like, Maul is at Mandalore, I need help. And Ki-Adi-Mundi is like, Mandalore's neutral, we're in the Republic, we can't help. And it's like, but you're the Jedi, you should help. And you see things like that affecting them. So I love, like, again, exploring all those like morality questions. And then also we get introduced to Ahsoka Tano, who I love.
Yeah.
So getting to spend more time with her and getting to spend more time with Padme and seeing their stories was amazing. So yeah, definitely I love the Clone Wars.
Was there anything in the Clone Wars that after watching changed your opinion of anything in the prequel trilogy? Like for me, I think all the characters became kind of cooler through the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because of that background information, it kind of fills in the gaps that the movies can't portray.
Yeah.
Okay, so was there anything after watching the Clone Wars, was there anything, whether it was a character or a storyline, that shaped or changed your opinion of the prequel trilogy?
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest one is Anakin's arc specifically. Being able to see more of that thread and through line to seeing him making the choice to become Darth Vader, because it does feel pretty fast in Revenge of the Sith. So definitely developing out his character and having a better understanding of seeing him in his good side too, being able to like develop more sympathy for him, and how he was manipulated by Palpatine, seeing how he's manipulated by Palpatine. I think that's the biggest one, Anakin's development. And then also I would say the development of the Jedi Order as a whole, and being able to see them as flawed rather than, if you can watch the prequel trilogy, and sometimes you can watch it and especially if you're coming off of the original trilogy where they're this mythological, these mythological beings greater than life, they were the heroes, and then you get into the prequel trilogy with the added background of the Clone Wars, you see, oh no, like they weren't always in the right. They kind of made a lot of mistakes along the way because of Palpatine, of course, having his hand in it. I think Palpatine is one of the greatest villains in all of media, if not the greatest villain. But then also just they made mistakes too. So being able to be a little more, I don't know if objective is the right word with the Jedi Order. But yeah, just seeing them more truly with the rosy colored glasses on.
Yes. And also, I have to throw in, Ian McDiarmid is my favorite part of the prequel trilogies. I, like, every time he's on the screen, I think he's just the best thing ever.
So good. His little nuances, mean, it's just the nuances in the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, that like little turn when Anakin's like, is it possible to learn this power? And he's like, not from a Jedi. And it's just everything he's communicating, and then just the way that he can manipulate this. Oh gosh, he's an incredible villain and is incredibly terrifying, and I love it.
So after getting into Star Wars, how did it impact your day-to-day life at all? Were people like, look, we're going to have an intervention for you. You've read 60 books in the past 2 years.
Yes. Yep, it did. I have a tendency to go down. If I find something that I really, 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 really love, I have a tendency to go down a rabbit hole with it and kind of obsess over it for a long amount of time. And also we were in quarantine, so what else was there to do? And I was also between jobs, so what else was I to do but binge the Clone Wars and read a bunch of books. So yes, I'm thankfully not in that kind of obsessive space anymore. I've had to take some steps back and remind myself, oh, there are so many other things that you enjoy, Camilla, and you need to focus on. But that's not to say I regret having gone down those rabbit holes. So I don't know if I ever had like an intervention, but I think there were definitely conversations, because I was in my parents' house during quarantine, where they were like, I think she's watching too much Star Wars. She can only talk about Star Wars. Do we need to do something? But, yeah.
Did you collect any of the toys or anything?
I'm a big Funko collector. And my rule is I only collect those Funkos of the women of Star Wars. So I'm actually staring at 2 on my desk right now. I have General Organa right here.
Oh yeah.
From The Force Awakens, and her Padawan Rey, also from Force Awakens. But I don't know how many I have, but I have a lot. So Funkos is my big thing. Funkos and books And then Padme merch. If there's anything with Padme, I'm probably gonna buy it. I have Galaxy's Edge stuff from Disneyland too, so I've definitely had to step back on how much I'm spending.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're probably not as bad as a lot of people out there who are like, I have every Kinder action figure.
Yeah. Nope, I'm not that bad. I would say Funko Pops, books. There was a time where I was like really big into lightsabers. I've definitely stepped back on that because lightsabers are expensive. And then t-shirts, I guess, are my big ones.
Yeah, I'm a big t-shirt guy too. I love the t-shirt. What is your favorite Star Wars memory?
Favorite Star Wars memory. I would have to say the one that stands out the most in my mind is this past summer I had the opportunity to go on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Oh, wow.
Disney World Star Wars experience. And it was truly the most amazing thing I've ever experienced, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, because it is how immersive they make it is. It truly feels like you are a part of the story and you get to have your place in the story. And the cast members go out of their way to remember your names and talk to you and find you and ask you questions about your Star Wars life. And you're in this like contained environment where when you take an excursion to Batuu on one of the days, you genuinely feel like you're part of this Star Wars world. And I got to do it with some friends that I met online through Star Wars, and we had the best time. And when it ended for the weekend, we were all just so sad. And I remember the like final show. They do a final show. I'm not going to give spoilers, but it ends with them shooting off fireworks out into space, which you see through the viewport, and they're playing Star Wars music. And everyone's cheering and clapping, and just like the four of us are standing there just like crying because it was so beautiful and immersive and amazing. So that is my favorite Star Wars memory, easily.
That sounds like a spectacular memory. And if I know right, it's a 2-day experience where you don't really leave the experience.
Yes, if you want to leave, you can. They're not locking you in. But, they're not like, we're in space, you can't get out or else you're going to be in the atmosphere. No, it's so we did it over weekends. So we checked in on a Friday, and then the end was we left Sunday morning at like 9 a.m. I think. As soon as you're into the ship, they take you to your bunks and you're meeting people, and you can go to the bar, and they have like special Star Wars drinks, and they have sabacc on the table, and people are dressed up. My friend went as a full Twi'lek and was painting herself pink for the entire weekend. And then you're meeting all of the characters and they just interact. There's stormtroopers who will come up and try and question you. And then you have tasks that you have to complete. You can join the Resistance and help the Resistance, or you can help the First Order. You can be a smuggler. And the food is so good. Some of the best food I've ever had. I know the price is steep, but it is beyond worth it. And I hope every Star Wars fan ever can get the chance to experience something like it.
Did you choose Resistance? And I think Chewbacca's part of it, and because I saw that on a commercial, and that's what was seeing the Wookiee live an exciting moment for you?
Yes, I go to Disneyland a lot, so I'll see him a lot, but it never fails to make me happy. But I remember the first time you see him you're at dinner, and then like he's trying to hide from the First Order person who's giving a speech about the First Order occupying the Halcyon, the Star Cruiser, and Chewie's like trying to hide, and these kids are all trying to help him hide because he's this massive Wookiee. But yeah, me being my bleeding, rebellion heart person, I couldn't not go with the Resistance. And it did eventually lead me to helping Chewie on a mission, which was definitely a highlight.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't want to. I feel like maybe we talked too much about it because I think it sounds like an amazing experience that's best taken a little bit blind.
Yeah.
But I do have one more question. Were any of your friends First Order, and did that create a rift?
No one was First Order. two of them did more of a Jedi path. There isn't like an explicit Jedi path, but there is one if you're like, I'm kind of force sensitive. And I'm not going to spoil what they got to do because they got to do something. And then when they got back, they were both nearly in tears with what they got to do. But I won't say what it was. But I've seen pictures of what they did, and it was pretty insane and incredible. And I would have also been in tears if I was them. That's all I'll say.
So that's part one of my conversation with Camila. If you got to go to the Halcyon, would you choose Resistance or the First Order? Did you become a fan of Star Wars because of the prequel trilogy? How many of the Disney canon novels have you read? I've lost track of which ones I've read, but I haven't gotten into High Republic yet. I think I'm just going to have to sit down and read the first one. Are you a big fan of the High Republic novels? Let me know on Twitter or Instagram at Star Wars Mean to You. That's at Star Wars Mean the number 2 in the letter U. And hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. If you're liking the show, please give a 5-star rating and review. Now in part 2, we'll talk about Camila's own anthology podcast, Beings of the Universe. Each episode tells the story of a side character from that galaxy far, far away. And all the links for it are in the podcast notes. And in the coming weeks, we'll have author and podcaster Ben Acker. It's a fun conversation because I spend most of it trying to keep up and outdo his humor, but spoiler alert, I don't. But that's part of the fun. We'll also have content creator of What If the Prequels Were Good, Michael Berti. So that's all coming up in the next few weeks, but go and listen to part 2 of my conversation with Camila. And remember, the Force will be with you, always. Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.